essentially free 10 years ago because it was falling apart. It was dilapidated. Yeah, and it hadn't really, it hadn't been made. The Archdiocese kind of quit maintaining it in like the late 70s, early 80s, and then eventually they shut it down in 92 just because they would have a mass, no one would be here. Like the neighborhood had changed. They're not going to maintenance this giant structure if it's not actually being used. And so, but it's the oldest and the largest neo-Gothic church west of the Mississippi River. And so when they built this, they started building it in like around 1850, and they finished talk about 30 years. Civil War in the middle probably slowed them down a little bit. Nothing slows construction like a giant Civil War. And so, but in retrofitting this building, we have a lot of challenges. Like first, we had to just keep the rain from pouring in, which was a lot. So we've done significant roof work, and all of it is all kind of DIY. So, like my background is I worked for a long time for Bob Cassidy on the crew building the City Museum. So I was a welder at the City Museum for a long time, and me and a bunch of other City Museum buddies kind of started on this project together. That's why Bob Cassidy quote up on the wall. And so we basically took this building over and just started kind of picking away at it, DIY. And we've been at it for about 10 years. And after about 10 years now, I can say, finally, we can probably start using the adjective like stabilize to describe it. Like we fixed the roof, fixed the structural damage, we've done a ton of stuff. And now we can get to doing like our real mission that we have, which is to make an art center for kids in North St. Louis and all over St. Louis. I mean, there's just a massive loss of creative potential in the city of St. Louis. It's really profoundly depressing and sad, and that if you grew up in North St. Louis or a lot of places around the city for that matter, you might never find out that you love printmaking because you never ever get to do any printmaking. You're just like surviving in your neighborhood. There's just this, and that's a real reality for a lot of folks. And we'll talk to a lot of people that run a lot of art centers, and then all of them they tell me the same thing. They'll say, it's the hardest thing you have to do. They're like, just getting kids to come in the door, and be engaged by our programming. When you talk to the kids, like, go to that place and be engaged, that place is fucking lame. We can only go there, it sucks there. But we don't have that problem. They beat the door down to come here, and then when you come here, then you can make a real impact on kids' lives. Kids are hard to get through to, and social pressures are really hard. They're what's cool and interesting, but we have a good presence in social media. Little Wayne has skated here, Tony Hawk has been here. That's important to kids, And so then once you get kids in here, they want to be a part of the skate park. Then you can make a real impact on their lives. And so the skate park is one aspect of it, but it's like the tip of the spear. We're also doing a large art gallery. So right now we're getting ready to start furring out some of these walls going up to these column caps. And so there'll be a street art gallery that goes the rest of the way around. And so kind of like a salon style gallery. And then we have a LiDAR scan of this building, so then we'll start doing the ceiling. But we're never going to touch the frescoes. We don't paint over oil painting. Those are beautiful, but we're going to start doing, basically to Sistine Chapel, the entire thing out. And part of it there, building studio spaces and things for kids, a lot of stuff is just a moot point. It's like we're going to build the recording studio. We can do that when there's no windows upstairs, and the rain pours in every time it rains. So it's kind of all. But now we finally got to the point where we really kind of saved the building. And it's just been, it's been a huge labor of love. So right now we're in the middle of a fundraiser to raise the money for the construction for it, for actually getting occupancy permits for the city of St. Louis. So we've been doing everything underground for the last 10 years. We funded this entire project in the rehab of this church to get to the point where it's actually a savable structure. By now, just by basically we built a concert venue downstairs, just do giant underground parties for 10 years to pay for all the construction that we needed to do. Because some of that stuff, you have a window to fix it. We had about 5 years, I think, we got this building before it's kind of, eventually you're not doing repairing. You have to tear giant sections out of your building. If it gets, every time it rains, it gets a little bit worse, a little bit worse, a little bit worse, a little bit worse. We're just we have to do it now. These things must get fixed, or you're not going to, you can't fix it. There's nothing left to fix. And so we're past that point now, where we've legitimately have saved this building. It's on the National Registry of Historic Places. It's the local St. Louis landmark. And landmark, I have 100%, I can say with 100% certainty that if we'd have got this building 5 years later than we got it, it would have been past the point of being safe. We fixed some, the tower, the stones were just sitting there. We pinned everything back. I could go on a laundry list of giant repairs that we've done. And so now we can actually start using it as what it's supposed to be. And like I always tell like a little story. We had a bunch of nuns show up maybe 5 years ago from the Little Sisters of the Poor, which they
had a convent up in North.
Yeah. So they just it was shutting down at the time, and we talked about why it was shutting down and everything. But they came, and I remember we were just like, they showed full habit. They were like crying and hugging us and like thanking us for saving. And I got all these photos of us holding their hands and rolling them around on skateboards and stuff. One of the nuns drank a beer with us. She's like, I have one of those bushes that we threw at you, and she caught it overhand. But they told us we were doing the Lord's work, and one of the nuns, like, I tried to explain what she did. She just like got it. She got it immediately, and she was like, "Oh, I see what you're doing." She's like the underserved kids in the neighborhood. That's the congregation here now. And I was like, "Yep, exactly. That's what it is." And they were all about it, and so that's kind of the way we look at it. Is the underserved urban youth is the congregation, and that's what we're doing. And kids need spaces like this.
Yes,
like,
they do.
They really do. Like there's like if you have a pot, like, you're familiar with the third space, the idea of the third space, it's like the human beings, like need the third space. Like you have work or school, depending on your age, and then home, and then you need like a third space. Everyone does. Like and back in the day, it was like the campfire is the third space. Like people bingo hall, they have all sorts of stuff. But if you have a positive one, people will utilize it. But if not, like a bar is a third space, drugs are a third space, gangs are a third space. Like human beings, like as an animal, like innately need like an outside of where you work and live, like community environment to exist in. And they're very, very important. Like YMCA's are third space. And if you look around, like that's like if you don't have one, people will find you because they need it. But if you create one where like you are nurtured to be a creative person and that like your differences are celebrated and things like that, then those are the type of, it's very hard to like be in a place like that and take like your kind of bigotry back out to the world. Like after, and we see that here all the time. Like,
Yes, if you build it, they will come.
if you build it, they've came. They've already
Yes.
came. And so if you know anyone that we have a GoFundMe page, we're starting to do like larger like corporate philanthropy. We have a nonprofit that we've been running since 2016 called the Liborius Urban Art Studios that basically will administer all of the programming here and work with the kids. And right now it's facilitating all of the construction that we're getting ready to do. We need to raise realistically about $700,000. Well, which is like a raisable amount of money, and that will get us an occupancy permit with the city of St. Louis to be able to open the building like legally to the public. So that's the plan.
So the kids do come in and skate though now?
Yeah, I mean that's.
Do they come anytime?
No, so for a while we had. They were low for a while, but we're out loud and proud now. We did 3 public skate sessions. Open. Everything was only on Instagram. We just people kind of knew about it. It was like a unkept, best kept secret sort of a thing. And now we'll do like private sessions. And people come from all over the country to come here. It's like it's like a bucket list place for people.
Posted the story, didn't
They
they?
did,
With
yeah.
pictures and everything?
They did, yeah. We did They did like a front page above the full article. I've been turning down media about the church locally for. I think every news organization in town has hit me up 30 times over the course of the last 10 years. But we did Vice News. We just recently did like a thing with HBO. We would do stuff like that, but like we wouldn't do I'd be like code enforcement agents. They don't necessarily watch Vice News. They watch the 6 o'clock news though. We're not doing that. But now we've had meetings with zoning. We've met with our aldermen. We have aldermanic support letters. We started getting our ASBIL. We have ASBIL drawings. We have a full development plan, and now we can come to the city and like realistically use it as a DIY ground up development. But like in reality, like most of the time when people do projects like this, they have like a 7-figure budget that they come to as a developer or a corporation to do it. It's just like us, just DIY ourselves, like we do all the work ourselves, and we train the kids who come here to do it. Like we have a bunch of kids now that are decent carpenters and good tough plumbers. That's how we fix the tower. You like bucket brigade the mortar out there and you fix it. And it's been great. It's been cool to like teach a lot of these like really important skills to these young kids. And we've done it dozens and dozens and dozens. Like everything in here is all like user built. Like we talk to the kids about what they want to skate, and then we teach them to build it. We build it, and so this vert ramp is the largest indoor vert ramp in the Midwest, and it is built out of a mini ramp that was here, a box jump, a pyramid, right? Like we basically cannibalized everything in the entire room and rebuilt it into this. Ran a GoFundMe for $5,000 to get into the extra stuff we had. Built it.
Is that the office up there?
No, it's just like it's a storage right now. And the art. That's the other thing. The art, the gallery that we're putting up in here will be another interesting part. So it'll be like a legitimate art gallery, but focusing on kind of street graffiti art. And I mean, I always joke that this room's like a square foot smaller because how many layers of paint we put on the wall. Because we just golf this out, and then repaint it again and again and again and again. But I've painted over some amazing artwork, amazing stuff. So we don't want to do that anymore. So we're going to cover the walls, fur them out, stud them, and put plywood on, so then we can put up other stuff and take it down.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to get ruined.
Right.
So we keep it, and then
That's
also
awesome.
if this is a gallery, then maybe these 3 bays here would all be prints. You want to buy an interesting art print for someone for a birthday or something.
Oh, wow.
It will also have a QR code, have a number on it. You'll be able to go to QR and scan a code and read about the artist, buy it now, and be a curator, and we'll be able to use it. They'll be next door in the rectory. We can go to the rectory if you guys want to check the rectory out too. We're talking about doing a bed and breakfast over there, so kids on skate trips can stay there. They can come and skate all the time, and so that's kind of the larger development plan that we have. But you gotta get that in the city. Some of these things you can't be an underground venue forever. I'm also started when I was 27. Now I'm I guess 38. I got a daughter now and stuff.
Major life changes.
Yeah, I have a bunch of kids and stuff. Kids are crazy. What a crazy. She's 1.5. What a crazy little thing having a kid is. Blowing my mind on a daily
I was going to
basis.
say, you bring a kid in here and they're going to be trying to.
Oh, she goes nuts, man. She goes nuts. I love it. But this is the fun. Does anyone have any questions? I'll answer. We're kind of out and loud and proud now. If somebody has any questions about anything.
Do you ever have the kids that were here in years past? Do they always come back
A
with their
lot.
kids?
A lot of them do, yeah. A lot of them are. Tons of people bring their kids here, and when we
Because they had fun.
yeah, they're fun, and it's also skateboarding is an action sports in general, or kind of a great equalizer in a weird way that it doesn't matter how old you are, or your race, or creed, or economic stand, or whatever. Everybody skates together, and it doesn't really. It's one of those types of activities where it doesn't matter where you come from or what you're doing. Either you can or you cannot do a kickflip. And the skills that you need to be good at skateboarding and are analogous for the rest of life. Trying again and again and failing until you succeed at something you're trying to do, and falling down and getting back up again. And the mentality that action sports breed is a really positive one to cultivate in young people. And that if you're successful at skateboarding, that type of mindset transfers really well to any other thing you'd like to be
Did
successful.
you have to shut down for 2.5 years that you had COVID?
Yeah, we should, just like everybody else, we shut down into COVID, and we tried some other. It's pretty easy to social distance in here, and so we
Yeah.
and so we did some private. So we tried to do some sessions, but we were trying to be responsible with it. With COVID, it was weird, in that there was no weird middle ground for us. If we did a session, everyone acted like we were gonna by having one, we were killing everyone's grandparents. And then if we didn't do a session, or we did one and we made sure everyone masked up, then we were mask Nazis. And so basically it was what particular political view was gonna chew us out online for this decision. And so eventually we were just whatever. and we just sort of people would be well, if I got to wear a mask, I'm not going to come. Yeah, we're all, I can tell online, you're a really cool guy, we want to hang out with you, so we'll miss you dearly. So I guess don't show up then. We'll all be here having fun without you, asshole. And so, for the most part with COVID, we shut everything down for a really long time. And we did testing stuff out, because at the time, especially for a period there when it was peak hysteria, when everyone was spraying groceries down with bleach and wearing gas masks in the supermarket. But nobody did anything, And so, yeah. Nobody got any questions or anything else?
We had a lady on the morning tour. Her grandson came up from Florida to come here.
Yeah, people come from all over the world. We're really lucky. A lot of the comments online, I can't read them anymore. They're in other languages and stuff. We had a group come through, and the graffiti riders too. You guys been down the flood wall? You guys been flood wall, right? Yeah. Mural Mile and stuff. If you go down Shoto Landing, there's the flood wall that's down on the river. They do a giant graffiti festival there every year called Paint Lewis, and artists come from all over the world to paint. Some of the best like graffiti spray paint street artists in the world come there. And so for a while we made this like a secret underground exclusive after party thing for Paint Lewis. And so like if you came from far away to paint flood wall, you'd come and get a special spot at the church. So that guy's from Belgium on the right. Ross Terms that did that big flip face is from New York. Depot on the side is from Oakland. Local, this guy's over there from Hawaii. No, Kansas right there is from Hawaii. This one's from Arizona. From all over the world. Then we've had these in Germany and so like we attract and so that's really nice for like the graffiti artists. These dudes like this in San Diego, he just came through. And so, we'll offer an opportunity for street artists and other lesser known artists to be able to sell their work too. Because a lot of people go gallery hopping. Like it's a very small segment of the population that spends their Saturday like popping from gallery to purchase some artwork or even look at it. But like we draw a whole different crowd here. And so the gallery that we're gonna do when we kind of get everything studded out, we'll probably build a prototype wall next week. That'll be, I'm trying to say like no piece of work is allowed to cost over $1,000 or something. Something's very affordable that people will actually buy. Yeah.
Do you charge admission or anything for the skating?
So we used to charge $10 to get in.
Oh.
And so, and it was like a donation, it's like a tongue-in-cheek thing. It's like, it's a $10 donation. We're going to suggest a donation. We suggest it real hard.
I was just wondering if the kids around here had money.
Oh yeah, I mean if it's a neighborhood kid, we look. I mean there's kids come all the time, but like for the most part, we would ask for $10, and almost everybody paid it. But I mean somebody's coming up and they're a couple of bucks short, so we're like, well, we're another $2. You only got it. Don't care. Like come on in. Like, and we bring people in all the time. But when we would run those open sessions, when we were doing that sort of a thing, we charged $10 to get in. I think, but that being said, is a donation thing, and a lot of people did not need to donate. They came for free, and we'd also let people work too. Like people would come in all the time and they'd be like, I don't know, do you mind taking the trash out? I'm like, that's the trash. Come on in. We've been doing that for years too. We would throw volunteer days. We still do the volunteer days, and they have a skate session attached to them. I mean, we'll get 40 kids will show up and pump shovels and build stuff and work on things. And the skill training stuff is really helpful. It's good to learn that type of stuff.
The mainly guys that come. A lot of girls.
Oh yeah, lots of girls. There's a huge contingent of quad skaters, like girls on like 4-wheel roller skates. Yeah. So there's a organization called CIB. That was Chicks in Bowls, but now in our political climate, now it's Community in Bowls. Because not all. But you can't say chicks. It's not okay. But I digress. And so that's mostly female quad skaters, and they're I'd say the quad skaters are the most traveling across the country to come here, and I'd say we're probably over 50% female if I looked at the most of the people that come here. But it's a huge spread of like races and genders and age groups and stuff, and like skateboarding now. I mean, skateboarding's in the Olympics this year. Like it's and a lot of the folks that were like dirty little shitbag kids where they were skating in the early 80s, they're all like lawyers now, doctors, working professionals. I mean, one of the things when we went to our zoning meeting, we were all nervous about it because I think everyone's used to being like a little outlaw skater, but like one of the zoning officials was like, "Oh yeah, no, I've known about you guys for years. I remember back. I'm looking forward to the attitude we got from the city is how can we help you do this." She was talking about remembering finally like picking her son up all over the city skateboarding when he was a kid, and now he's like 38, he lives in some other city, and he's got kids and stuff like that. But like, and that stuff's important too. Like, that's what Brian, my partner here, he built that skate park under the Kings Highway overpass. He has an organization called Cage VT that does skate park advocacy. They built the skate park in Morganford. That's the only public skate park in the city of St. Louis. He always talks about he got into the nonprofit because there was a lawyer that used to skate down there. There was a lawyer and he was a skater. And like that's important that like kids are like, yeah, this guy's a lawyer, he skates, like maybe I can be a lawyer one day. Like those types of role models are super important, and for a lot of kids, super rare. And like it's like a lot of these neighborhoods, unfortunately, you get this like cyclical cycle of poverty that's really difficult. Where you have no like positive environments or places that nurture kids to be themselves and be creative and things like that. And
Do the kids ever get broken bones or anything like that?
we never had any like jam thing. Nobody's ever been seriously hurt, really. I mean, like we have some rules. Like you have to wear a helmet on the vert ramp. You have to, and knee pads. But like nobody wants to get hurt, and so for the moment you get banged up. But like nobody's been seriously injured that wasn't doing something outrageously stupid that you weren't supposed to do, and wasn't like a friend of ours. Like the only people that hurt are like people who aren't part of the project. That like like a friend of mine broke his ankle on the vert ramp trying to do something. He's a friend of ours. He's our buddy Corey. Trying to drop in on this little banana board, like this tiny little thing. We're like, don't do it, dude, don't do it. Oh my, like he knew he shouldn't have done it. It was dumb.
But are you responsible, or is it their responsibility?
Well, I mean, for that particular individual, he is us. So like he was like one of our guys here, and so but like we have in the future when we open public, we'll have insurance. With skate parks, we have everyone sign waivers when they come in. Normally I would have all you guys sign waivers, but it doesn't look like anyone's.
Well, we're not going to
I kind of figured as much. We try to have everybody who steps foot in, but we have them all sign them. There's insurance that we'll be getting when we open the public. And
So if you don't want to shut down.
skate parks are notoriously difficult to sue. They've been around for a long time, since about the late 70s. And the idea would be like, especially they're public ones, like public skate parks now, and people get hurt. I mean, you can imagine you go in front of a judge, and you're like, I'm skating at this skate park, and I got hurt. And they're like, all right, so let me understand. You got on top of a 12-foot tall ramp on a piece of wood with some wheels on it, and you like jumped. You felt as though you had a reasonable expectation of your safety. And you've been hurt before you have. How long have you been doing this? Since you were 12. Okay. Yeah, no, case just like, there's a precedent of like personal responsibility in that. And then also, I mean, in general, we have security cameras that will cover everything, and then you do regular maintenance logs like anything else. I got a good crash course in this working at the City Museum. There's a way that you can kind of like limit your liability. But people will sue you, but you want to set up a situation where their attorneys are like, it's not worth it.